What you're listening to are musicians performing psychedelic music under the influence of a mind-altering chemical called LSD. What you're hearing now is the hysterical laughter of a young man shaken by a wild hallucination midway through an LSD trip.
Oh, I'm so happy right where I am right now. Right where I am, I'm so happy.
Millions of Americans will illegally consume lysergic acid diethylamide, commonly known as LSD, during the next 12 months. Such indiscriminate use of LSD, once solely intended for scientific research, has snowballed into a nationwide crisis. Teenagers prowl along the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles, high on the drug. Some of them chew the bark off trees and growl like dogs. They alternately writhe on the floor, screaming, cower in a corner, or dreamily prop themselves against the walls. 10,000 thrill seekers attend a 3-day LSD festival in San Francisco, undulating to atonal music while experiencing way-out trances. LSD pushers openly sell the drug on dozens of college campuses. Adherents include corporation presidents, noted educators, a magazine publisher. But it's mostly unsupervised teenagers, the rebellious adolescents searching for identity, who embrace LSD and sound its praises.
And it was the most beautiful thing in the whole world. And then the paintings on the walls were dripping. Just, you could see the paint coming down them like this, just like somebody was hosing it off at the top and all the paint was running down onto the floor. But it was so pretty. They were running, just like they were melting.
Yeah.
It was groovy. But that's the only hallucination I got off the whole trip.
Often, however, they put it to frivolous use. A colorless, odorless, tasteless, inexpensive substance. It's considered by the majority of them to be nothing more than a shortcut to instant bliss, where actually it may be dangerously harmful. It's as easy to obtain as a hamburger at a local drive-in. In major cities like New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, a purchase can be made on a street corner, in a delicatessen or a coffee house. Night spots frequented by this clientele carry names like The Trip, Lysergica Go-Go, The Doors of Perception, and The Brave New World. Members of the acid scene are no longer underground. Their widely dilated pupils are inevitably shielded from the light by dark glasses, whether the users are dropping caps while seated in the back of a motorcycle or languishing in a movie theater watching The Last Year at Marienbad or Juliet of the Spirits, surrealistic films which have heightened meaning for those who are turned on. It's a disenchanted, restless, insecure generation continually searching for new kicks. A 19-year-old expresses her feelings.
Well, I never think of when I'm 20 or when I'm 21. I think of tomorrow. Or this minute. And hope there's tomorrow. 'Cause I don't like what's going on in the world. I'm scared of that. More than drugs. I'm not afraid of them. I'm just scared, Everybody is. Pretty uptight.
An LSD pusher who sells the chemical at $5 a cap tells why his business is burgeoning.
And these people have the attitude, you live once, so why not take it?
And apparently a widespread breakdown in parental discipline has removed the most basic restraints. A 14-year-old who was also experimented with heroin and benzotrine was asked whether her mother knew about her LSD habit.
Yeah. She does everything. I don't have to hide anything from my parents. They're not that way. I don't hide anything from my parents. They don't hide anything from me. And we have a very good relationship. We don't love each other, but that's okay. You know?
The lack of love in the turbulent climate of the 60s, combined with the sensational publicity caused by the drug and its easy availability, have triggered the rampant psychedelic craze. Dr. Sidney Cohen, chief of psychiatry at the Wadsworth Veterans Administration Hospital in Los Angeles, and author of an LSD survey called The Beyond Within, describes the evolution of the drug from its less frenetic beginnings.
Since that day, 23 years ago, when Dr. Albert Hoffman accidentally inhaled enough lysergic acid diethylamide to cause him to take to his bed, LSD has passed through 3 distinct phases. The first was a period of scientific investigation, when a variety of mental aberrations were examined. At that time, the LSD state was called a modeled psychosis, a schizophrenia in miniature. Later, some of the scientists observed that many of the reactions were not madness at all, and they proceeded to explore the possibility that the drug might be effective in the treatment of certain mental disorders, that it might help us understand the creative process, the nature of perception, and other human mental activities. Today, scientific research with LSD is declining. 5 years ago, the second period began, the idyllic, psychedelic, evangelic era. This was a movement spawned at Harvard by Drs. Leary and Alpert, later to infiltrate many a campus and offbeat group. The psychedelic persuaders made the most attractive assertions that the experience would free us from life's games so that we could enter into non-game ecstasy, that our mental abilities would multiply 100-fold, that our consciousness would be expanded out to the ultimate. Now the third phase is upon us. In the past 2 years, the acid head has taken over. Most of the takers are out for fun, and LSD high. The doses erupt, the music gets louder, the lights swirl faster, and the chap who freaks out just hasn't passed the acid test. A surprising number of these youngsters don't even know who Timothy Leary is. Or if they do, they think he's the guy who started the party.
Psychologist Timothy Leary, a smooth-talking 45-year-old, is regarded as the leading American LSD missionary, as well as the movement's most controversial figure. His early LSD experiments, where he used Harvard University undergraduates, resulted in his expulsion from the school's faculty. Recently, he was facing a jail sentence as lengthy as 30 years for transporting marijuana. Leary has appealed the verdict. While out on bail, his seductive talks on the virtues of LSD draw huge college audiences.
The LSD trip is a pilgrimage far out beyond your normal mind into that risky and revelatory territory which has been explored for thousands of years by mystics and visionary philosophers. In the last year, we are told that perhaps 1 million Americans, most of them young people, have made the LSD experience a part of their lives. Is this a social menace and a cause for alarm? I don't think so. I see nothing less than the speedy evolution of a new indigenous religion. The LSD religionist knows that the temple of worship is the human body, that the shrine must be located not in a public place, but in the privacy of your own home, and that the congregation cannot extend beyond your family and your closest friends. In 15 years, the high school and college students who are experimenting with LSD will be running many of our institutions and guiding public policy. Remember, the college students who are using LSD and marijuana today do not comprise a criminal class. They are not drug addicts seeking to escape. They are your best educated, your most creative, and your most courageous young people. And like it or not, they're going to build you a new civilization.
Leary's detractors argue that his rhapsodic, high-minded thoughts exert a strong appeal on individuals likely to be injured by the drug. There's no doubt that many of the young, ignorant of the high potency and danger of LSD, have been swept up in the aura surrounding the drug. Some of them wear buttons on their lapels and place bumper stickers on their cars reading, "Support your local travel agent," meaning the source of supply who provides the trip-taking chemical. Since the only legitimate source of LSD in the United States is restricted to approved researchers, the user finds himself obliged to deal on a black market which has reached enormous proportions. Planes smuggle huge batches into this country from Canada, Mexico, England, Czechoslovakia. But actually, anyone with a working knowledge of organic chemistry can readily synthesize LSD. As a result, the LSD available in the current seller's market is manufactured largely by amateurs. Often it's of dubious quality. At Capsule Corner, a crossroads for acid heads in Los Angeles, customers can purchase LSD in a variety of forms, impregnated in sugar cubes, chewing gum, blotting paper, mixed with baking soda in a capsule, absorbed in a matchstick, or preserved on the back of a postage stamp. The price is up to $5 for the standard dosage, 200 micrograms. The nonpareil in the field is a San Francisco chemist who distributes free samples at massive LSD parties and allegedly has become a millionaire through illegal sales. He's spoken of with reverence by one of his Los Angeles pushers, who's also a user.
Owsley really knows how to make acid. Right. So that all the impurities were taken out of it. Now, Owsley really has dynamite, righteous acid.
The continuing danger in buying on the black market is that the consumer never can be certain exactly what dosage he's getting. The average dosage is virtually invisible. 300 micrograms could be put on the point of a pin. There's the added possibility that an impure dosage could cause substantial organic damage. One teenager who had just illegally purchased some LSD and consumed it while standing on a sidewalk voiced her fears.
And it scares me not knowing exactly what my proper dosage is. And I have to take it behind the law because there's no other way.
Another girl reported the size of her dosage.
The first time it was half a cap. Just the trees and the sky, and even the grocery store is beautiful. I could have stayed in it for hours.
A teenager noted how much LSD she consumed on her last trip.
Oh, yeah, I took half a cap of a 500 milligram cap.
She described how she knew it was a 500 cap.
Well, you know what a 500 cap looks like. You know what I mean? It's small.
Queried about her largest dose, a young girl responded,
Yeah, well, it was 15 drops of a concentrate of 400 micrograms a drop. And I know it wasn't good because it immediately hit my spine. I was in sheer agony. It was tapping my spinal fluid.
The girl's answer underlines the abject ignorance of many users. LSD cannot possibly tap the spinal fluid. Captain Alfred W. Tremblay, commander of the Narcotic Division of the Los Angeles Police Department, explains the confusion surrounding the LSD numbers game.
Or a year ago, a person could buy LSD and know that he's using 50 micrograms. Today, or a year from now, there'll be no such guarantee from a pharmaceutical company. It will be a bootleg version similar to heroin, to where an addict shoots heroin, might be shooting 2% heroin, he might be shooting 25% heroin. When you buy it from a illegitimate source, there's no guarantee on the quality. We had a backyard chemist under investigation at this time, and he was producing sufficient amount of LSD to make 1 million capsules in a 3-month period. Our information is the same individual has now enlarged his activities, and I would estimate that this individual is producing for consumption in Southern California in excess of 1 million capsules a month.
Student health centers and psychiatric wards rapidly filling with acid heads who cracked up following bad trips or an inability to assimilate the LSD experience are already a fact. 1 out of every 6 admissions at the UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute is attributed to LSD. Dr. Thomas Ungerleider, resident psychiatrist at that facility, reports their symptoms upon arrival.
They may be severely depressed with suicidal tendencies or have made very serious suicide attempts. They may be confused, wandering about, not knowing where they are. They may be hallucinating, that is, hearing voices or seeing things. Or they may be extremely anxious to the point of panicky.
Reports of such unfortunate trips do little to deter most users, especially those attending high schools and colleges. They go right on experimenting with LSD, waiting for psychedelic lightning to strike. More often, they're swayed by extraordinary experiences related to them by their friends. Here's one such recollection, told by a young insurance company employee.
Because I was really loaded. I mean, I came out of the shower jumping around telling everybody how groovy it was to take a shower. And it was like, well, it was like being under a thunderstorm with great big drops of rain, because you could really feel the water coming. And you could just, it almost felt, this is weird, it almost felt like you could feel your pore going, sopping up the water, you know, your whole body was just going, like a great big sponge, you know, and it was like a massage. It was so groovy. You can't believe how groovy it was. It wasn't just water hitting you, taking a shower, soap, and out you go, you know, towel off. It was just, oh wow, you know, it was like a caress, you know, kind of, and you could really feel the hot and the cold. You could feel hot and cold, you know, and each little drop that came out was a different one. You know, it wasn't, I don't think the water must mix inside. It must come out hot and cold or something, because you could feel hot, cold all over you. It was really groovy. It was, I guess the word for it is it was sensual. You know, it just, your body just, oh, it grooved, you know. It was really neat.
A member of an instrumental group which records psychedelic music reveals her rapturous LSD trips.
God, I'm always tripping though, and always freaking out. And sometimes I freak out with everything, because I'm just freaking out everywhere, just free away. You know, one time in the swimming pool, on my back, I guess about 3 hours in the pool, you know.
Yeah.
complete silence, I remember. And I became part of the water, and part of the air, part of all the color in the air, part of space, and it was me and I was it, and you know, it all melted in together. That's why I stayed there so long. I didn't realize time. I remember dancing after that, dancing quite a bit. After that, lying down, and all the sounds that I heard completely faded away. Everything got so distant. Because it got so distant, and I went right into my own head. Closed my eyes, started singing all, you know, everything was in my head at the time. 10,000 teddy bears and millions of teacups, you know, things like that, and written happy birthday.
The same girl reveals what these insights have meant to her.
In what way?
God, well, I've had to look at myself in all kinds of ways. It's when you open those doors down there into where the rats are running around, you shine light on them, you know, and you bring it all out. You see where it's at, and you keep feeling more light, like, you know, it happens to Dracula when he goes in the sunshine. Dies. The evil is brought out, and you can look at it, and the good and everything. LSD helps me to remember. Grass helps me to forget. You know, I don't know.
LSD itself certainly is not fatal, but for individuals temporarily irrational in mind and spirit, it can be the propellant toward a swift demise. Accidents and suicides have been reported. High on the drug, an adolescent slashed his arm and bled to death in a field of lilies. Even homicidal tendencies can emerge. The fortunate, among those who become unhinged under LSD, at least manage to stay alive. For a 14-year-old truant, it was difficult enough defining one personality, her own. She was asked when she took LSD for the first time.
Right before my 14th birthday, 13.
You were 13 years old.
And it brought a lot of things forward that I wasn't quite ready for. And I become a lot more aware, a little bit sharper through, you know, taking LSD, but I wasn't quite ready for it. It's put me in a very strange state of mind ever since. I've been taking psychiatric treatment because of my LSD trips.
When he dropped out of college, a Southern Californian named Brian found himself in a constant state of rebellion. He grew a stubbly blonde goatee on his chin. Brian, whose photograph can be seen on the jacket of this album, is a dedicated LSD user.
I would say lately it's just been about once every 3 weeks I've been turning on. And I'm on a constant high all the time. I groove on life, and that's all I need to groove on. I love life.
He was asked whether he had any fears about such habitual usage of the chemical.
No, I'm not worried about it. In my opinion, the ones you hear the most about are all the bad cases, the bum trips are the ones you really read about. And inwardly, I believe I am beautiful, and as long as I carry the thought that I'm beautiful and everything around me is beautiful, I have no worry about a bum trip whatsoever.
You've never had a bum trip?
Never had a bum trip.
Brian's boast was premature. With the consent of his girlfriend, 6 microphones were concealed in a Los Angeles studio apartment to record the actual sounds of his 34th trip. 8 people participated in the LSD party, which began at 8:30 on a Saturday night and ended 12 hours later. This remarkable, sometimes incoherent transcript illustrates a phantasmagoria of fear, terror, grief, exultation, and finally breakdown. Its highlights have been compressed on this recording to make their own disquieting points. The time is 9:30 p.m., 1 hour after the participants have eaten sugar cubes saturated with LSD. We hear Brian and his fellow travelers observing their gradual transformation.
Brian, you're getting all red. You're getting high.
I know I'm getting high. Feel it.
It's grabbed me a long time ago.
Come here, look at your eyeballs, man. They go like this. They go big and small.
They go big and small. I was looking at it.
Look at mine.
Yes, they
No,
go
come
big
here,
and
Brian.
small. No. Wow. Oh, this is our first. My first time. I'm with you. Okay. My eyes are watering. They want to stop watering. It's just one big laughing gas. That's all it is.
Hey, Brian.
Oh,
Yes, but you wait the flowers.
What?
You're just starting, wait.
You childish hog. Did you eat it? You stupid idiot. He's flipping out. That's all.
I think you're flip. I think you're awesome.
He's gonna eat it. Did you bite that? That belongs to the camera. Where's the camera?
This cat has.
Where's the camera?
He's got.
Come on.
Brian, come on, man. You know.
You can't rep that.
No, I'm
Just look at it.
Yeah, eat my records too. What the hell?
Brian's been amusing his friends by chewing on some plastic flash bulbs.
No, really. Let's have a little reality here, man. You guys see no reality, huh? No reality.
Don't pressure, man. Because it's time, and time is beautiful.
Brian's mood is gradually changing. He orders all of his friends into another room and closes the door. He sits alone on the wooden floor, visible only by the dim light shining from the bathroom. He talks to himself.
Doesn't know the difference already? I do. Because I know the difference. I don't want your damn world. I'm gonna withdraw so far out of my mind. I'm just gonna eliminate that part of it. Wow. There's so... Look at everything so... It's just so... You know, wow. What? It's great. Great. Come in. Come in. Come into my world. Come into the world of reality. Come into the world of materialistic things. Come in and be ready to be ate up by society. And if you're lucky, we can go out and get drunk tonight. And be happy. And be gay. Oops. I'm gonna get a little water. Oh, oh. I'm so happy right where I am right now. Right where I am, I'm so happy. I wish everyone else could be like that. What am I? A ballet dancer. But I can ballet. Voila. 'Cause they don't know what is happening to my mind. I am wrong. Oh, what a beautiful way to go. We get like a little kitty cat, go kitty pat, go kitty cat, little kitty pat. Meow. Man, I'm laying here right now. Living. And I'm tripping. snap of a finger, I can come down into real reality. Like I said, all I gotta do is snap them once. With one little snap, I'll be right down here at the lowest, I'll be down with all the rest of the animals. Down where everyone's gonna bite everybody, and see everybody, and want to take everybody. All you gotta do is snap a finger, and I'll become one of them. But if I don't snap my fingers, if I don't snap these two fingers here.
The time is now 1 a.m. Brian is unable to snap his fingers and terminate the trip, which continues.
I ain't never gonna snap them two fingers. Always gonna be happy. Gonna be together. I don't, there again, when you get in the world where you gotta have, just like, I don't mean like that, man, I can snap my fingers all day and I ain't gonna do nothing. I'm gonna stay wherever I am. But see, you're pretty enough in the world there again, man. You aren't in the world, you're in here. Here I am. You don't understand. You don't know what the hell I am, do you? Why? I can beat my head off. I don't even know if I can ask myself why anymore. It must be, who am I? Who am I? I know, I can't think of who he is.
He sobs as his joy turns to fear.
What? Don't turn the lights on, man. Turn the lights off. Man, turn the lights off. Turn the lights off. Turn the lights off, though. That's all I'm asking of you. I want everybody out of here. True. I don't give a cool. Everybody out. Right now. I don't give a cool. Out. Come on. Everybody. Man, I'm in the scene. I'm right here. Right here in the middle. I'm pacified. I'm happy. I'm enjoying life. You aren't content to let me be, are you? Get off my back! Wow! Wow, somebody's gonna pay for this bum trip, boy! This is a bum!
Brian's rocky journey ended 12 hours after it so innocently had begun. He was shattered by it. Dr. Sidney Cohen evaluates its meaning.
This young man never had a bummer in some 33 LSD trips. Every one of them was a delight. Everything under control. He needed only to snap his fingers, and down he came any time. But on voyage 34, he finally met himself coming down an up staircase, and the encounter was crushing. Without the help to bail him out, he was caught up in a disorganized turmoil, in a hell of madness gone mad. This, then, is the bum trip, the final face-to-face meeting with oneself, with the whole choking mess of personal conflicts bursting forth. Brian had successfully slipped around them on 33 journeys, and this one started out no different than the rest. But then he was hurled into a chaos that never seemed to end, and with no one to help him deal with it. Perhaps this was more than a bum trip, from which one eventually recovers, little the worse for a ghastly day, which was an eternity. For there has been a change. He remains shaken, unproductive, verging on something a little more ominous. Brian learned nothing from it. His friends, they went their merry way. His family, they don't count anyway. If he should break down completely, he becomes just another LSD casualty to be cared for. Was this the last of his explorations? I wonder. The strange, childlike thinking of the acid set goes something like this. If LSD got me into this buzzing confusion, then LSD might get me out.
The abuses symbolized by Brian's bum trip worry those concerned with the untapped potential of the drug. Already there's promising evidence that LSD has relieved the anxiety and pain of terminal cancer patients, aided in the treatment of certain mental illnesses, advanced the limited progress of some schizophrenic children, and helped to rehabilitate chronic alcoholics like Charles Dietrich, who, after taking LSD, founded Synanon, a rehabilitation center for narcotic addicts. An amendment to the Federal Dangerous Drug Act recently made LSD manufacture, sale, and transportation felonious. California and Nevada statutes make mere possession a crime. The LSD cult, predictably, views such regulation with rancor. Leary contends that LSD is religious in nature, and banning it would violate constitutional rights. Mrs. Laura Huxley, the widow of Aldous Huxley, who visualized the acid era in his book, Island, vociferously opposes the suppression of LSD. At the same time, she points out the advantages of its use.
When abused or misused, it can become dangerous. But in that sense, an automobile is also dangerous, yet we drive all the time. Freeways are dangerous, drinking is dangerous, smoking is dangerous, some sports are dangerous, falling in love is dangerous. But, I mean, being alive is a continuous risk. I am convinced, however, that the psychedelic experience is one of enormous importance and must be approached with respect and love. For psychedelics are stimulators of ideas and feelings, but generally, these ideas and feelings would express themselves constructively rather than violently or destructively. If it were possible during a riot to spray small doses of LSD from an helicopter into the air, people would soon quieten and not be hurt.
Where such a proposal may seem impractical, a group of recalcitrant teenagers in Amsterdam, Holland, recently did attempt to improvise their own version of Mrs. Huxley's theory. They threatened to disorient the local population by placing several ounces of LSD into the city's water supply. In the United States, authorities seriously lack the necessary fingers to shore up the LSD dike. Despite existing laws, a cascading LSD torrent is upon us. 3-day binges are becoming stylish. Dosages escalate. While authorities agree that LSD is not physically habit-forming, it can become psychologically habituating, and not only for teenagers. Worse than psychological dependence, for some, is the emergence of the drug as a fashionable commodity. Its increasing usage, especially in acceptable circles, has prompted a unique variety of testimonials. A Los Angeles girl declares,
I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it can make you sterile and it can make you lose your sight or deteriorate your brain or all this kind of stuff. I don't think that having children could make up for what I'm going to get out of it eventually. Because, well, you start getting into philosophy when you talk about that, but, I mean, you start saying, why am I alive, man, you know? And, if you are ready to die when you die, and you know what's happening, or you think you know what's happening, then, that's a lot better than having 10 kids. It'd be nice if people could get it as a graduation present from college or something. It'd be a beautiful thing.
The graduates of a Southern California prep school have already implemented the young lady's suggestion. Some 67 of them recently celebrated their convocation by turning on with LSD. Now, if there's any doubt that LSD looms as the new chic, one can only note a recent Manhattan wedding. where LSD mixed with pineapple juice was served at a penthouse reception. The 80 guests tripped out on views of the East River, while the altruistic newlyweds tiptoed away on their own honeymoon trip. So that they won't be considered square, vulnerable students bow to pressures to dip into acid-laden communal punch served at large gatherings. Bacchanalian romps on the lawn and mixed skinny-dipping revelries have become commonplace amongst the acid heads. A pigtailed brunette was asked whether she had sex,
Have you ever had sex
under
with
LSD.
in her course?
No, I wouldn't want to. I really wouldn't.
What about you?
No. You can be with somebody you like to be with and just touch their cheek or hold their hand, and it's the most beautiful thing in the world. You don't need sex under LSD. You don't have to do that. I really think it's just, I don't know.
It's a weird trip.
It's a weird trip. Because you're so satisfied with just holding hands that going for more than that isn't beautiful anymore.
The sexual element is discreetly downgraded among the pariahs of LSD and emporia like the Psychedelic Bookshop in San Francisco, which purveys LSD guidebooks, quarterlies, lecture courses, and atonal music while avoiding more prurient merchandise. One of the leading LSD spokesmen, however, is poet Allen Ginsberg, a heavily bearded remnant of the Beat generation. When sufficiently stimulated during many of his public poetry readings, the sound is unforgettable. The blending of a sustained organ and finger cymbals form the unusual background for his mystical chants.
Capable of us waging all suffering, true because not false. Therefore he proclaimed Pranya Paramita Mantram, and proclaimed Mantram says, gone, gone, completely gone, completely, utterly gone.
Ginsberg was one of the early advocates of peyote, another mind-expanding drug. He's taken LSD several times. One can only wonder how these experiences have affected his point of view. Here he recounts his catharsis in the wake of LSD.
Head of the Nyingma sect, when I brought him my sorrows of LSD, said, if you see anything horrible, don't cling to it. If you see anything beautiful, don't cling to it. The Highest Perfect Wisdom Sutra, taught me by Jack Kerouac 10 years ago, later taught me again by Gary Snyder last year, later impressed on me again by an experience of the wave vibrations of the universe under DMT at Ken Kesey's house in California, is a statement about the nature of the universe which is accepted by the Tibetan Buddhists, the Zen Buddhists, the Theravadins, the Hinayanas, the Mahayanas, all the yanas of every direction, of all universes, in and out, all sentient beings accepting tranquility. Fairly well. Well, fairly.
Ken Kesey is another prime mover in the LSD order. He organized and incorporated a peripatetic repertory troupe called the Acid Test, a group formed to simulate and stimulate the LSD experiences for paying audiences. Projectors, flash signs, messages, and kaleidoscopic patterns on the walls. Blinking strobe lights silhouette the dancing throngs, making them resemble fragmented memories of an LSD high. Here's one sample of the Acid Test music and lyrics.
No Christmas here, there is only a ship, there is only you, there is only me, there is only us. So if you ever feel your mind and body leaving the ship, you just got to grab out and touch someone on the hip, because that's all that's left is the ship. And we're all on the ship, and we all are gonna make the trip. We're on the ship, we're on the ship, And we are going to make the trip, oh, they're going to make the trip because once we signed up for the ship, we had no choice but to make the trip. And so we're going to make the trip, so I said, wake out, I said. That last bit of energy pushed us completely into uncharted realms.
The supporters and detractors of LSD currently are at loggerheads and will probably remain that way interminably. We've attempted to objectively display both points of view. On the basis of the evidence, however, the answer to the LSD problem should be just about as obvious as the basic question: is this trip really necessary?